Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. Today I'd like to touch on a bit of a sensitive subject. I had a few things in mind when I started this channel. It wasn't just a fun project to put these videos together, but it was also a means to help motivate me in completing my backlog of games. I have a tendency to get soaked into endless sandboxes and all sorts of things that just suck up time. Meanwhile, a game that I was really excited to pick up has just been sitting in my library since who knows when. Not only that, but I have a really bad habit of starting games and then getting distracted every time something... Needless to say, I don't have a good track record for completing things. But sometimes, just sometimes, it's worse than that. I'm dedicating this video to the games that I stepped away from permanently. These are the games I gave up on. Back in 2014, I had my eye on an awesome-looking multiplayer shooter called Strike Vector. The fast-paced combat gave me the impression that this would have all the goodness of Quake Arena with cool futuristic assault jets. The reviews at the time made it look promising, and I even got 5 more copies to gift out to my buddies. The controls were tight, it ran well, everything seemed fine for the first few online matches I played. Unfortunately, none of the people I gifted it to gave it much interest. In fact, there didn't seem to be a lot of interest anywhere. The servers were just becoming more and more empty. By 2017, the devs dropped a reboot titled as Strike Vector EX, but that didn't seem to last long either. Nowadays, you can't get either on Steam anymore. The devs at Rage Quit had it pulled because apparently even they weren't interested. No pun intended, Rage Quit Corporation is no more. As for the state of things today, I loaded it up to capture this video, and as expected, there is only one server with 0 people in it. Sure, there are some solo challenges that you can play, but even those are empty. Not even the bots want to play this game. Of course, it would have helped if the devs had added bots to begin with. So with that, we say so long. Retrovirus was another game that I was digging many years ago. This was much to the style of Descent with its 6 degrees of freedom gameplay. I liked the concept too. You're basically an antivirus program tasked with fighting off a worm who infects your user's machine. And well, maybe the company shouldn't have cheaped out and left everyone running Windows ME, because Kyle just doesn't listen when IT tells him not to click on every email link that he sees in hopes of finding At least that's how I imagined it happening. Either way, you're an antivirus program who has to navigate the system and clean up all the evil viruses and such. I'm gonna be totally honest. As much as I like this style of game, Retrovirus bored me to tears. The movement was slow, a little clunky, it just didn't have the pace of a good shooter like Descent or Forsaken. I gave it a couple of tries here and there, and it just wasn't happening. So, much like McAfee, it's just not worth installing. The next one on my list is sure to get me some jibe, but this is me being honest. I wanted to like Titan Souls, I really did. It looks pretty, it's well designed, it's also just not my kind of game. For those not familiar, Titan Souls is one of those titles that puts a heavy emphasis on killing you repeatedly over and over again. It's actually a neat concept with combat. You're a kid with an arrow, literally just one arrow, but it's cool because the arrow can be magically drawn back to you, and all you have to do is beat a series of bosses, which in a lot of cases can be taken out with one hit. Unfortunately, you also die in one hit, and these bosses can be tough as nails to defeat. This is the kind of game that people play when they enjoy punishing difficulty, and kudos to them for not giving up. I, on the other hand, accept my defeat. Adios, Titan Souls. Among the Sleep is something of a horror game / walking simulator, so off the bat it's really not for everyone, but I like trying new things. The general idea is that you're a toddler and there's this strange bear that talks you into going into the closet with it for a bit of hugging time, but mommy pulls you out because she doesn't approve of that kind of thing. I'm pretty sure that's how a lot of childhood trauma starts. Okay, that's not it. But in all seriousness, the story is an abstract on childhood trauma. I definitely did enjoy the spookiness of the game, not to mention having the perspective of a child makes common things seem all the more intimidating. It can get pretty trippy later on, but that didn't seem to make up for the rather slow and tedious gameplay. I gave it a good bit of time, solved a bunch of puzzles and such. Overall, I just found the game too linear and dull for my taste. Sorry kid, you're on your own for this one. And finally for this list, Annodyne was a game that I picked up not long after it was released in 2013. What can I say, I'm a sucker for just about anything that looks like The Legend of Zelda. Initially, I was disappointed with the lack of controller support, but hey, there are third-party apps that can fix that. What was impressive to me was that it was developed by just a couple of guys roughly over the course of 1 year, and that said, the quality is not too shabby. There's plenty of dungeons and puzzles to explore, and it was kind of interesting only having a broom to defend yourself with. I put a bit of time into the game, but for some reason, I just wasn't feeling it, and to this day I couldn't tell you why. At some point I ended up getting lost and wasn't sure how to proceed to the next area, and I just didn't care enough to look it up. I stepped away from Annodyne and never came back. And to wrap things up, something of an honorable mention, I suppose. I'd heard about Nexon's Vindictus a long while back from one of my coworkers, and I have to admit that I was really soaked into it pretty quickly, and one thing to know about me is that I do not get excited about MMOs. I played it solo for a while, but honestly, it was an easy game to do drop-in, drop-out parties. Unfortunately, no matter how much fun your combat mechanics are, there was so much grind that I just couldn't take it anymore. It was a lot of fun though, and I know there are a lot more player classes now. I may go back to it one day, but it's definitely not a high priority for me. So what do you all think? Did I give up on these too early? What games did you give up on? I'm looking forward to hearing from you in the comments. That's it for this session. I hope you all enjoyed. Until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side.